Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Brothers Take podcast. I'm Chris, and I am joined again this week by my brothers, Adam
Hello.
and Eric.
Hello.
We are back in the room to talk more gaming, but with a twist. It's not video games. There's other games out there, guys. In fact, before video games were ever invented, people actually had to play in a room together and communicate with one another. So a lost art, but no, it's still out there. And coming off of our Stranger Things episode, we thought it would be fun to talk Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop strategy games. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this week's episode. And of course, as always, we would love to hear from you guys. So if you have any crazy Dungeons and Dragons adventures that you want to share with us in the comments on YouTube, or any other strategy games that you play that you want to recommend to us, or say you're a Warhammer fan and there's a certain army that you collect, we want to hear about it. So let us know down in the comments on YouTube. And if you enjoyed us, please do give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and click that notification bell for future content. If this is on audio platforms, then you could, of course, also touch base with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take, to give your take on everything that we bring up here today and your own crazy fantasy adventures. But without further ado, let's roll. I see what I did there. The Demogorgon. No, okay. So before we jump into Dungeons and Dragons, which Eric is gonna probably have the most to say about that particular one.
Well, actually, we were talking.
Now.
We think that you've probably played more than he ever did.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, and I'll tell my story later. But it wasn't like true Dungeons and Dragons, to tell the truth. And
does it matter?
yeah, we just had fun, you know. And I'll tell you all about our 3 to 4 year campaign where we played the same characters and we went on the wildest adventures ever. And that's what I mean, like when I say like the audience can get in touch and tell us their wild adventures. Most of the fun of those kinds of games, those role playing games, is the wild shit that happens that nobody predicted, that even the dungeon master didn't plan. I was just like, fuck it, okay, this is what's happening now, let's just go with it. And crazy things happen. There's also great Dungeons and Dragons podcasts out there. Let us know if you listen to one and if you have one that you would recommend to us. I mean, there's Critical Role, there's Let's Roll With It, there's a few others, but you know, there's plenty out there. And I'm pretty sure the cast from Stranger Things, actually, since we're just coming off of that episode, they did a Dungeons and Dragons session. It's recorded live. It's on YouTube. David Harbour, Finn Wolfhard, Gaten Matarazzo, and Natalia Dyer. They all play like a Christmas themed Dungeons and Dragons session. So that's on YouTube. I think it's like 2 hours long. If you're ever looking for just a bit of crack, like to throw on.
I would love to watch that based more on David Harbour doing it.
Yeah.
To see
what he's like.
Yeah.
yeah. But before we get into the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, right?
Okay.
Because Adam, you've always been a big fan of these tabletop strategy games, Warhammer, and then because the Middle Earth strategy game came after Warhammer, really, right?
Yep.
But lately, it's gone from like always interested to like fucking crazy fandom. Yeah, hold on. I suppose the audio listeners will get nothing from this, but if you check out on YouTube, look at the background of Adam's video here, and you can see shitloads of Mummicle and all sorts in the background. What got you back into it in a big way?
The pandemic. And I think that's where a lot of people, not just Middle Earth, but Warhammer, every other type of, like, whether it's the Mantic style games, D&D as well, people just getting, which is weird because it's like, these are social games, right? I mean, one of the most annoying things about playing a strategy game like that is you need people to play with. And it's not as simple as, with the likes of D&D, there's a way around that, which is do it through Zoom, do it through Skype, right? You can't really do that with Middle Earth. I mean, you could probably set up a weird... I think it would take a lot of production and setup with multiple cameras, and you'd need OBS and things like that to get that working. There has been on Steam. There's a virtual tabletop game. It's about 20 quid, and people have modded it. Now, the virtual tabletop is really just so you can play things like chess online, and solitaire and stuff like that. But people have modded it, and you can get Warhammer, you can get Middle Earth, and all the little models. They've 3D modeled them and everything into
Holy shit.
So you can play it virtually, but it's quite a huge learning curve. So it's odd that the pandemic, the time of isolation, has kind of gotten people into these very social games. But it gave you the time to not just collect them, but build them and paint them and things like that. Because that's the bit that takes the most amount of time. I suppose it's like once you get out of the pandemic, here you now when everyone can get back together. It's like, everyone has an army.
Now I've got an army.
Yeah, which you just wouldn't have. Like my back catalog in terms of grey miniatures is huge.
Yeah, right. I think it's interesting that with the Middle Earth strategy game, it's kind of more so about like collecting scenarios versus like someone who plays Warhammer might have a particular army and they only play that army.
Yeah.
It's not really like that with the Middle Earth strategy game, is it? Like people just try to collect as much as they can of that.
Yeah, I suppose it's because it started off and it's actually, the game is written by the same guy who wrote and created Warhammer and Warhammer 40k. He's no longer with Games Workshop, but the game was written by the same guy. But when it started, it was in line with the films, right? So it was the Fellowship of the Ring film came out. It's not a battle movie. It's a skirmish style film, right? It's like running away from the ring rates or just fighting in Balin's tomb and things like that. So the game was centered around these adventure scenarios. So it wasn't large scale battle. I suppose you could do the Last Alliance at the beginning, but that's really it. So the amount of miniatures you got was very small as well, and most of them I think were metal back then. So it was mostly these small skirmish style games. And then once the other films came out, the rules adapted and became much larger battle style. And that's where it is today, is that you can do large scale battles with it. But you never had, like you said, with Warhammer. I mean, if you just take something like the Space Marines, how many chapters is there of the Space Marines, right? There's tons. You can even make some up. And it's like the way you paint them dictates how you play them.
Yeah,
which has always been kind of, that kind of put a block. Like it's always stopped me from actually painting miniatures in Warhammer, because it's like, well, what if I don't enjoy that play through? So like playing with them, I'd have to repaint them and play with someone else then.
Yeah,
and you can't really paint.
It also takes away a little bit of just the creative freedom of, this is how I want my guys to look. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to have to attach any kind of status to them really, except just, I like how they look.
Yeah, and you don't really have that in Middle Earth. A little bit, like you'd have to, certain armies can only go together, I guess, or certain units go with certain armies, but there's a lot of crossover. Like orcs, for example, is with every evil faction.
So I can't put hobbits with Haradrim. Come on.
No, well, I mean...
Why not? Why not? Why can't I do what I fucking want?
I think it says in the rulebook something about common sense, I think is what it says.
Yeah. That's yes.
Is that actually the rule?
It does say that, yeah. It does say that common sense does come into play a little bit when it comes to it's like, of course you can do whatever you want, right? Like you could do that if you wanted to.
You're breaking the immersion
as long
of the
as
experience,
the opponent
right?
is willing
happy
to
with
allow
it.
you to do that. You could say, well, these are weird hobbits that travel down south.
These are rogue hobbits. They're thieves. They're yeah.
You could
rapscallions.
Rapscallions. Yeah.
But I think the way it's kind of, there's a bit of a, and that's with everything to do with Tolkien, right? There is a precious element to it that you don't want to taint, right? I mean, that's the whole, everyone's worried about the Amazon show coming out, right? It's that everyone's worried that it's like, if that was any other property, no one would give a shit.
No, but no one probably be that interested in watching it either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but because it's
Yeah.
you're messing with Tolkien's work, it's like, I mean, that's the Bible for a lot of people.
A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Eric, you've collected quite a few models yourself.
Yes.
What have you got?
All right.
Well, no, I don't need a whole list, but like, you know.
Yeah, well, you can't really see them because they're all over there.
Again, audio listeners, I don't know what to
But
say
they're
to you.
all to the
things
to
that
the,
get pointed
wait,
at.
they're all in the
We should pop
background.
over
You
to
can't see them.
YouTube
They're
when
on
done
shelves.
listening to us, and
Yeah.
give us a like and
Yeah.
comment down below.
Well, they're all on
100%.
shelves and stuff
And
like that.
subscribe,
And
man. Subscribe.
There's some 40k stuff there. There's some Space Marines and Necrons. I got some actually in a case as well in the background. You can't see the case. It has like my Rohirrim and Army of the Dead are in the case.
Mhm.
And then I got some Elder Scrolls stuff as well over there.
Which we played a
Yeah.
bit of.
We
did
played
play
a bit of. We did an episode on Skyrim.
Check
Like-
that one out. And that one you have to watch on YouTube.
Which we
You do have
never
to
talk
watch.
about.
we never talk about. Actually, you know what? We've actually got a couple of episodes of not mentioning Skyrim
I think Batman took its place.
for a little bit. Yeah. It was pointed out to us actually that we were like talking Lego,
Yeah.
and within like a couple of minutes we mentioned Batman again. Instead of talking about Batman instead. So okay. So
I played as Batman in Skyrim once.
You did. You sent us a picture.
Yeah.
you can have both. You know, you can have both, and that's okay. That's fine. That's amazing.
I know. Yeah.
Was he was a member of the Dark Brotherhood, but he didn't agree with killing, and then
Yeah, wait. Yeah, didn't you play as Batman in Skyrim with holding Anduril?
Yes.
Like you just got your tree made.
yeah.
that's so metal. and the soundtrack was Ghost. Unbelievable. Cool. I don't have any models, but I actually did have a few back in the day. But I think yous have all of them.
Probably, yeah. They probably got
Probably.
filtered
Which
down
ones
and
did you?
ended up with
Which
us.
ones do you have?
I had the Balrog.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you?
I did. Are you sure you didn't have
Believe
Bloodthirster?
I had the Bloodthirster.
Which
You had the
I did have the
Actually,
Bloodthirster. You're right.
I do have them there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
you can have them back if you want. That's a very rare model. That one.
Nah, hold on to it. Hold on to it for me. There's a whole I was more so though. I was more interested at the time of like what looked cool. I suppose. I was very young, and I was just like, that looks so cool. I want that. And like, I remember loving the looking through the magazines, particularly the Warhammer 40k stuff. Obviously, I had a huge interest in the Middle Earth stuff as well, purely because of the movies and everything. And you were getting the weekly magazines at the time as well, Adam, where there was like you get.
Yeah, that's
figures.
all of them at the back.
Yeah.
All
Like they were so fucking
91
cool
issues.
as well. But I just loved like looking through the magazines and like looking at like the Tau and stuff and being like, they look so cool, and then like making up what a movie of that might look like one day. Do you know what I mean? Like, lads, how is there not a Warhammer 40k movie?
I know, right?
Seriously, like, come on, make it. It has to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And why isn't there a Middle Earth? Oh wait, there it is. Those are the best movies ever. But I suppose it's interesting that Tolkien stuff, in a big way, is a huge influence, and this is the books really. There's a huge influence on the likes of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Those kinds of games, those kinds of stories, those skirmishes, those fairy tale adventures probably wouldn't exist. Certainly not in the way that they do, if not for the Lord of the Rings. Do you know?
Yeah.
Even like the idea of a fellowship on a quest, and that there are basically classes within that fellowship, you know, whether it's like the rogue and different races coming together, a band of unlikely allies. Like it's Tolkien, you know what I mean? That's where it came from.
And he didn't need a separate book to explain the origins of each character to bring them all together. You know, he just put them all together.
Oh, okay, yeah, I hear you. He wrote up more like the Bible, I guess. You know, they're all in there.
Could you imagine if they did that in the Bible? Oh, hold on, we need a whole separate book for Saint Michael.
Well, actually, technically, they
Yeah,
did,
they
didn't
are.
No,
They are all
But-
separate
yeah,
books.
but
The
they
book-
did. Yeah, but they
the book
didn't
of
have
Genesis, the book of
right. But they
Yeah.
didn't have the book of Adam to introduce Adam into Genesis.
Oh yeah, before he meets Eve. Like, come on,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
where's his backstory? You
yeah,
know?
yeah. Fuck, I don't know this character. I don't get it.
I'm not
I don't get it as well.
invested. You know, I'm not invested. He eats a bit of fruit. I don't care. I don't know him. Yeah, I don't know him from Adam. Oh wait, that's his name. Cool.
Yeah.
Moving on to Dungeons
moving
and
on.
Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons. Eric, you've been
Yes.
collecting a lot of Dungeons and Dragons stuff lately.
I actually have the books beside me here.
How
Well,
many
I
books
got
is there?
3 of them. There is 10,000 strong at least.
Less than
There's
half that
a
I would
lot
hope
of-
for.
Oh, that was so good. Oh, 2 already. Okay, so
I'm on 17.
yes. Someone says yes in there somewhere.
Oh no, yeah,
he does.
Gimli
Gimli
says.
says it,
Gimli
yeah.
goes, yes. That still only counts as 1. All right.
Okay. Anyway, do you want to tell us about the books that you have?
Yes. All right. We'll start with number 1. Right. Again, for audio listeners, this is gonna make no sense to them because I can't see it.
Well, you could like say
Well, no,
what it's
I'm obviously
called.
I'm going to.
Oh, you're
right?
going to?
Yeah. This is the player's handbook, right?
Right.
So if you're going to be big into D&D, essentially, pretty much everyone needs one of these because
All right.
it explains essentially how to play, and it shows off all the different classes and races that you can choose. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And pretty much explains how to play, right? And it shows you the different variation. Now, it does tell you in it, like, it's not as restrictive. There's still rules, much like with Middle-earth Battle Strategy game. There's still a level of common sense to it. Hobbits can't really work with Haradrim unless the other player agrees.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still all
Right.
the rules in there. And if
Yeah.
you were wanting to spice it up, you just pretty much have to talk to the DM. DM either goes yes or no, whether that works in the DM's rules.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they're quite forthcoming, or at least should be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But anyway, so the player's handbook explains how to create the character. Then I have this book, the Monster Manual, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a
I
manual.
love the cover.
It's basically the Malboro from Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Or I should probably say the Malboro is that.
Yeah, and I think
It's
the
probably more like
the Cacodemon from Doom is inspired
It's kind of
by
that, yeah. Yeah, because it's a floating head. It's a floating head
with a big eyeball.
with loads of
Yeah,
eyeballs. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just loads of types of monsters and all their stats and everything like that. Let me see if I can open it up and show you.
Is the Mind
Yeah.
Flayer in there?
I don't think so, actually. But like,
Really?
there's one for like the orcs. It has all their different stats and everything like that. And there's the images.
See?
No,
That's cool.
I
Tolkien.
don't think. Yeah. There you go, Tolkien. I don't think so. Actually, I don't think the Mind Flayer is in there.
Is Vecna?
No, but liches are in here. There's lycanthropes.
Okay. Maybe it's a
With
maybe
additional
that's
there's-
monster somewhere.
maybe some of them are
there's there's a lich, and all of its
Yeah.
stats and everything like that, and all of its abilities down there.
maybe it's like
That's a ton of reading.
you have to have
It's a lot of
particular
reading.
what's the word? Quests or skirmishes for those characters. They're probably
Yes,
tied to very particular quests.
That's why there's loads of books, you see, because different books would come with lots of different things.
Yeah.
Some of them have quests to add in extra sub races or items or whatever. Like this is another one I got yesterday, which is Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. which
Everything
is-
everywhere all at once. That's that one.
Yeah. It introduces new subclasses for each of the classes, and then it also introduces
And then there's subclasses to the subclasses of the classes.
What I've learned from D&D is
and then introduces another class as well, known as
Oh
the
yeah,
art-
new class.
no,
Not a subclass.
No. Well, it has
It's class,
subclasses.
class.
There's subclasses to this
In the
class.
class. Class.
And it's the Artificer class and they're like very technologically advanced. So they use like guns and robots and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah,
You were about
those
to
are
say,
kind
Adam.
yeah, I think it's a ruse to try and get kids to read and learn maths.
oh yeah, there's a lot of bats involved.
There's a
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also, no,
Lots
it's
of
the rule of 3, right? It's read, maths, Satan. It's the satanic
yes.
panic.
Yeah, well, the satanic panic is on the rise. Like the fact that this shit is in our is in our town again.
No one's worried about Satan.
What are you talking about?
No, but I just mean like back
People are
in the
getting
80s.
back into
Yeah,
D&D.
like the fact that this shit's now in our town. Like Ireland is the last place to
Right, yeah,
ever get anything, and like we're in a town. We're not even in the main city. So the fact
Oh,
that it's
right.
in our town, it's massive.
You
not
mean
even on the
Dungeons
rise.
and Dragons now, right? Not Satanism.
Yes.
What's the difference? Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Rock and
shit is
roll.
massively on the rise. Not on the rise. It has risen. It's on the rise in Ireland, but it has risen. It has risen in the West.
It sounds like a threat. I don't know. Cool.
But also,
Yeah.
it's you know, it's kind of there's a trend with it too, isn't there? It's like it's okay to like it now.
Yes.
Almost, you know,
Pretty much. Yeah.
because like you see the likes of what's his name, Deathstroke. You know, he has,
Joe
Manganiello.
yeah. So he has his like LA crew and his own like
Yeah.
dungeon room that he plays in, and it's
Vince
like,
Vaughn is part of that.
yeah, and I think one of the WWE wrestlers is as well. I mean, you're not
Right.
gonna fucking jeer them, are you?
No
Oh, God,
fucking
no.
way. And like Vin Diesel has always played.
Yeah.
Is it true that he has his Dungeon and Dragons character name tattooed on his body?
I don't
something.
know.
And
But I
I've
know
never
years.
observed his body, so I can't confirm.
Not that closely, but it's
I
probably
know-
covered up in movies though.
Yeah, well, probably. But I know that how he convinced Judi Dench to be in the Chronicles of Riddick was
Right.
that he invited her to his house and they played D&D. And she
I
was
would
just like,
love to have been there for that. I'd love
Yes.
to have just been a fly on the wall. Dame Judi Dench playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't get more badass than that. Like
she said that she
Dungeons and
hasn't.
Dames.
Yeah, she just.
Dungeons and Dames.
She hadn't a clue what was
No,
going on.
I don't like that actually. That sounds wrong.
Don Carniolio's fucking.
Yeah, she
Dames
said
and
that she hadn't
Dragons
a
is
clue.
better.
She hadn't a clue what was going on, but she just couldn't say no to this adorable chap. So she just.
I with her. I'm there with her.
Yeah, on all those things. Like I've watched the Chronicles of Riddick, and I remember also going, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm with it. I'm here. I'm just like, sure, whatever. That guy has many faces. Cool. I don't get it. Furion. I don't know. Anyway. Has anyone ever seen the Chronicles of Riddick?
They had
That's not what
something
you thought
going
about.
there though, didn't they? Like there was something kind
don't
of
know.
cool there with
Was
Pitch
there?
Black.
Pitch Black was great.
Yeah, and even with the video games, the Escape from Butcher's Bay stuff, and like
Yeah.
Assault on Dark Athena, I think was the other one. Like
Yeah,
there's some
yeah.
really cool
Stuff there.
lore there, and then they kind of just went,
Space magic.
yeah,
Yeah, they went off the walls
they really did.
with it. Just a little too much.
Yeah,
But it
if
was
they
like,
kind of.
I can make a Batman connection with Chronicles of Riddick.
Okay then.
Go for it.
Go for it. I mean,
Well, the guy in do you remember the movie?
Oh, yeah.
a little bit.
You know
a
the
little
guy-
bit.
I mean,
yeah.
You know the guy who's
Go on, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a strategy game of the Chronicles of Riddick? That's what I want to know. Go ahead.
Not
Probably.
yet. Not yet. I mean, there's a Hellboy. There's a Hellboy board game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's the kind of small, kind of blonde guy who's like initially he's tracking down Riddick, right?
Mhm.
And he reveals to himself he ends up killing himself by walking out into the kind of it's like a firestorm.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
one planet.
Oh, yeah.
And he
Yeah.
reveals to Riddick that he was once a Furion himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's Thomas Wayne. Batman Begins.
Holy diver.
Soul Survivor.
Told you I can
That's
make Batman
amazing.
reference.
There you go.
There you go, lads.
There you go.
And you know, there's another character in there who was in Skyrim.
Probably.
I joke. I jest. So Eric, have
Yes.
you played D&D using
Ever.
using the official rules?
Oh yeah, because I am a sucker for making up my own rules. I do it all the time. Recently, I've DM'd once using. Well, I say for one campaign. It was like 5 or 6 sessions, using actual D&D rules, and it was quite fun. I could do better. No, actually, the rules are fine. The rules are good.
These guys seem to know what they're doing.
I think they spent a couple of years at this. They might. They might
This
know.
is 5th edition, am I correct?
Yes, this is 5th edition. They've done this 5 times.
Wow.
5 times they've slightly tweaked the rules, added in things and everything like that.
Because
But yeah,
there's
no.
a 5th edition Middle Earth game. There's a book called Adventures in Middle Earth, I believe. For
Wait.
D&D.
Oh, Oh,
Is
right.
there?
So it's like a
Yeah.
D&D inspired
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings adventure,
Yeah.
or sorry, a Lord of the Rings inspired D&D adventure, I should say.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
it's
I didn't know that.
adventuring in Middle Earth with
Sick.
D&D rules, I believe.
Ah, I think they've done a
Impressive.
couple of like that's kind of like the that Stranger Things Dungeons and Dragons starter set
Yeah.
is a D&D campaign
That would be fun.
based around Stranger Things. So I think there is like they've done that a couple of times where it's like let's it's like Simpsons Cluedo, you know what I mean? It's like it's still
Yeah.
Cluedo, but if you're a Simpsons fan, you might get a real kick out of what we're using as the weapons and the characters here. You know?
Or Lord of the Rings Monopoly.
Yeah, or Lorien Monopoly. You want to buy Lothlorien? Awesome. They'll pay rent, orc. I don't really get the. So we actually got
You
the
shall
Stranger
not pass, go to
Things.
jail.
Yeah. We got the Stranger Things Monopoly. The jail is the upside down. Go to the upside down. oh man, I missed my fucking parking tickets. I gotta. I'm
Wow,
going
they
straight
really
into the
milked
fucking
that
Shadow
game,
Realm.
huh?
Yeah, they really have.
Monopoly.
It doesn't matter which version you have. It's the same game.
It's the same game. Yeah.
Some people collect them though, just to
Well,
have the.
we all have
there's
a
a
hobby.
Metallica edition of Monopoly. There is. I swear to God. Anyway.
I think a heavy metal band version of D&D could be fun. Like
Yeah, that'd
something
be-
along the ways of like
yeah.
kinda
Brutal
like,
Legend,
like
but
Brutal
multiple-
Legend, but
Yeah,
like you could come across Dio, for example.
Dio, can you hear me? He comes and gives you wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you must
must go
find
to
the
the city.
Iron Maiden
You must go to the city of fallen angels.
where the ocean meets the
Sand.
sand. There you will form a strong alliance. Any Tenacious D fans? I wonder, like Tenacious D have D&D all over them, really. Actually,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
They
Just that
Yeah.
surely have played.
vibe.
Yeah.
Surely.
I know that there is. I think there is on YouTube Jack Black playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, he has his own gaming YouTube channel, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah.
He does.
Jake.
Jablonski.
Yeah.
Ja-
Gaming. Yeah.
Something like that. I don't fucking know.
Fred. What's it
Fred
called?
Flintstone. Eric, you've actually done a D&D inspired game as well, haven't you?
What?
Well, I'm playing it, so.
Oh right. Well,
I mean, I'm aware of it,
sorry. Yes. So,
but
back
it is
to-
D&D
back to-
inspired in terms of
Right.
terms of
Yes.
how it
So
works.
again, that's yeah. So I've played D&D, DM'd D&D like for a couple of people. I was introduced to them. It was good fun. I've played D&D a few times where other people have been DMing, but like I said earlier, I am a sucker for making up my own rules because something that's kind of stuck with me that what Adam has said way in the past one of these podcast episodes was that when you're building a world, the gameplay has to suit the purpose of the world and the story.
Right.
So that way, then that's kind of why I always sort of change the rules. But the one that Chris is playing and two of our friends, it is D&D inspired in that it's a tabletop game. But I mean, there's loads of tabletop games. There's Pathfinder. There's the One Ring. But yes, you role play. You're venturing through a world. But it is Final Fantasy, a video game series that we're very popular with, or not popular with, but that we like, and is a popular video game series that I've converted that into a tabletop game with its own classes, and I let the players, Chris and them, choose their own races, and they chose races from Final Fantasy 14 to play as, and it's been a great way to keep shape. It's been really good fun.
Yeah, it has been good fun.
Yeah, we need to get back into that now that I'm free.
It's based largely on the battle system from Final Fantasy X, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well, I found that when coming
Isn't
up with
that
it,
just like kind of going backwards?
well, I can't make video games out of it.
No, yeah, I know. I know, but it's like
Wait,
it's,
what do you want from me? I'm one guy. Come on.
Yeah. it's just that it's like isn't.
Oh yeah, it is going backwards.
Like
'cause
Final
it's-
Fantasy is just a digital version of D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
It all goes full circle.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of
It all goes back to
there
Tolkien.
is kind of there's a turn-based thing kind of in D&D, isn't it?
100%.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, when we did our one session out of like it was your turn, then my turn, then your turn, then my turn.
yeah.
And
I
there's
want
always
to
that
hear
turn based-
about that because I didn't know that happened. Eric kind of mentioned it to me yesterday. I was like, Adam played D&D.
Yeah, I wanted
Adam, what
to
was
kind
your
of...
experience of D&D like? And then I'll share my experience of.
Well, how did you just get into it?
How did who get into it?
The
Me?
two of you.
I don't know.
Like, I mean,
Probably the same way nearly everyone does. Someone kind of goes, "Hey, want to play D&D?" It's like, sure. I mean, I've never played.
yeah,
that.
but it was
Why not?
well before the pandemic.
It was, and
was.
it was actually well before even.
It was
Mine
before
was
it was
later.
cool.
Like when I was playing it, it wasn't like. I think it was before I'd seen Stranger Things even.
Yeah, well, you were in college and that, no?
Yeah, it was. But the first time I ever played, we were in secondary school.
Right.
Probably in my last year of secondary school, and then when we got to college, we used it as a way of like a meetup thing that we would continue to play this campaign, and it went on for like 3 years, and it wasn't like we didn't meet once a week or anything because that's crazy. Like I don't know how people can keep that up, but at least once a month, pretty consistently, we would meet up, and they would be long sessions.
Yeah.
And we'd get a lot of stuff done. So I ended up playing it because a friend of mine, he was really big into it, as well as being really big into just fantasy in general and like dark fantasy. He loves the From Software games, for example. They were a huge influence on his campaign, the way that he DM'd it and his world. So it's the closest I've gotten to playing a Dark Souls game. It's like his version of Dungeons and Dragons. But I suppose the one thing I can appreciate actually is he did not do it like, okay, guys, here's the rule book. Let's all learn the rules and let's play. Right? Which for a lot of people, that would be their first thing to do. What he actually did was, guys, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons, right? We all met up. And he gave us very, very simplified version of the rules so that we could play faster and see, does anyone even like this role-playing element? Okay. Right? And those who kind of didn't like it or weren't into it didn't really come back. Those who liked it came back.
Yeah,
until
you give
eventually
them the soft drugs first before you give them the hardcore drugs.
Yeah, he played Gateway Dungeons and Dragons, you know?
Yeah.
So then slowly and surely would introduce a new rule. And it was almost like playing a video game then, where it's like, okay, you've reached a certain point in your progression. Now a new thing kicks in, or a new kind of enemy, or a new kind of, you know, and that's the way we kind of played it. But it was more lore and character heavy. And he was very, very good at, like, he had this notebook, and every so often he would check it, but he wouldn't tell us what was in it. And he had written like a full book nearly of lore of this world. And sometimes like we might go, oh, I wonder if this is this or whatever. Like we'd have theories about what he's showing us or telling us. And he'd be like, how did you guys guess that? You know, or like, you know, sometimes it'd be stuff that's going to come way later or whatever. But no, it was mad. And it was some of the most fun I've ever had, actually. Was we'd get up to all sorts of shenanigans. And sometimes we would joke, but then roll. And if if the dice was either like a 20 or a 1, he would take it. And we'd be like, no, I was joking. He was like, no, fuck that, man. You rolled. And so if it was like a 1 and we were joking about it, it's like, say it's like, oh, we meet the king or something like that of some kingdom. And like, we're all trying to, I don't know, rationalize why we're there because we look quite suspicious. Like one of my mates would literally go, I punch him in the dick and roll the dice, right? And if it was like a 1, and then like the DM would literally go, okay, so you try to punch the king in the dick right in front of everybody, but you trip and fall over, but they saw that you did it, so now everyone arrests you. And we're like, what the fuck? You know, so we would all get punished for like the actions of someone. Or sometimes it might be that if it was a 20, for example, then the alternative would be you punch the king so hard in the dick nobody wants to fuck with you. And you have everyone's respect. You know, so he would like interpret what we're doing and fold the story out. But yeah, it was fun. We had lots of wild adventures, everything from saving kingdoms to burning orphanages.
But what's mad is that Eric just held up 3 books there, right? And he didn't show us the Lore Masters book, or sorry,
I don't have it. I don't have it. I was trying to get it. I don't have it yet.
Right, but that's what 4 of how many books can you get?
10,000 strong at least. Yeah. I already said this, Adam.
There's a lot.
It just blows my mind that like he obviously really knows the rules.
Not really.
Oh, really? Because it sounds
Yeah,
like he's
yeah.
just kind of the way he's adding them in for you.
Yeah, so
that
what he was doing was like, as he was learning a new rule, he'd basically go, "Oh, we've been playing wrong all along. Okay, I'm gonna slowly work that in
Oh, okay.
because we haven't been doing that." And then he'd learn something else and slowly work that in. But it was more about the fun. Like, it wasn't about because it's like at the end of the day, when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, it's like, "Oh, you've been playing wrong. Like, you're disqualified." Like, from what? Like, like, who gives a shit? There's 5 of us and we're all in a basement together. And we're playing together. We're not, there's no winners, So it's kind of, in that sense, you can get as bogged down with the rules, I feel, as you want to with that game. The real thing is if you're not willing to immerse yourself into it, that's really what will kill the game, Like, there was one person playing with us before who, like, they were kind of rolling their eyes at everything, and they were like, "Oh, this is stupid," and they were like, "Oh, I suppose I'll just, I don't know," and they just roll the dice, but they're not making any decisions. And when everyone else is kind of excited about it, we're playing music from movies that we like as we're doing it, and someone's acting like that, it's like, you're kind of killing the vibe here,
Yeah.
So hence that person doesn't get invited back, or something like that, right? But yeah, we had wild adventures. My character's name was Seraph. He ended up with one hand, but like a drill for a hand. He ended up with an eye patch. None of these things were things that I had chosen, but they had been inflicted upon me in my many journeys. And he had been exiled. Him and all of humanity had been exiled from the kingdoms, from the hardware store. So yeah, it was good times, good adventures. But Adam, you've tried out Dungeons and Dragons recently?
Yeah, I just got Eric to kind of run me through. Very quick game. It was quick. I mean, it took It took longer to create the character than it did to play the game.
Yeah, I did.
Right, you see, there is that. I think that's why the campaigns are so long, because
character creation takes a while.
You can't play a quick game of D&D, can you?
No, probably not. Not unless
but that's also
like kind of a pre-made character or something.
Yeah, that's also like the first time we played, he gave us character sheets that I think he had made with very limited stats on it to just like let's get playing.
I think that aspect of I enjoyed the most actually was making the character.
Oh yeah,
because it meant that Eric I rolled badly.
He did roll badly. He rolled very badly.
I always rolled badly.
He had no intelligence.
No, that's the only thing I had, wasn't it? Oh no, that was it. I had 0 intelligence, but I was very wise.
Yeah, like make sense of that. You see now, that's the thing. We didn't do it that way. We did it, and again, like everyone's gonna be like, "Kris, did you even play Dungeons and Dragons?" We did. We were given a certain amount of points. Now distribute them amongst your stats.
Yeah.
Because like that doesn't make sense that you would have 0 intelligence but lots of wisdom.
Well,
it doesn't.
It does and it does, right? So the idea,
I relate to that so much.
Intelligence is book smarts.
Yeah.
Right.
Wisdom is street smarts.
Well, actually, I know loads of people like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then charisma is your personality. Constitution is your health. Dexterity is how dexterous you are, and how finesse and athletic, and then
but it's more, so as opposed to the wording making sense, it's more like with the way it's used in game, it makes sense.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like recalling information on a particular creature you studied would require intelligence, but to do an investigation as to be able to piece things together within the imagination is wisdom. You're very wise in that regard. It's all about looking inward, piecing everything together. So his character was a ranger.
Yeah.
So therefore, tracking and everything like that and putting the pieces together would be a wise thing. He doesn't have any book smarts. He never went to school.
Or strength.
No, you were strong. You just weren't dexterous. You weren't dexterous.
Anyway, it just that helped inform how I was going to go about it. You see,
right?
The fact that I was creating the character. Those kind of stats then stuck with me, I guess, when I was trying to make a decision. Whereas if I was just given one, I think it's not. I wouldn't. I would feel like I wouldn't really know the character. I'd have to kind of figure them out first.
Yeah, I had that before, where the stats were given to me and all the equipment was given to me as well, and I was like, oh, this is kind of not really the character.
I want to play as.
Yeah, it's like you chose the class and race and name I wanted, but everything else is not what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I found my introduction to D&D was slightly more negative.
Right.
But I suppose I was going into the game with the wrong idea.
Well, you had heard a lot of my stories.
I did. Yeah, I heard a lot of your stories because you were into it more than I.
Yeah,
like you
now
started
play
long
it.
before I did.
Which is not how you play it at all, but it
No.
was fucking super fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went into it. I was like, oh, everyone else is like, oh, Elder Scrolls is just like D&D. And I was like, oh, okay. So if when I'm making my character, I can make them the way I want them to be. So when I was playing it and it was like, oh, choose your race, choose your class. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. The race, you choose your race, and your class obviously comes with particular abilities that other classes don't have. I was like, that makes sense. That's fine. No problem. I get that. And then I was like, okay, well, I was trying to make like a Hellboy Kratos character. And I was like, all right, I want to give him like a great sword. And they're like, oh, no, don't give him a great sword. I was like, why not? It's like, because they're not proficient with it. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? Right. And it was just a lot of not really explaining anything to me. It was just a lot of, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, don't do that.
Right.
So my first few experiences of D&D was me going, this game is way more restrictive than what I thought it was.
Yeah, as opposed to having the freedom of you can be whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
So then that's what made me go, right, I want to build game mechanics that would then be you can build your own character. So the classes would only define your abilities and your spells.
Yeah.
But in terms of equipment, you can use whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's and then it's as time went on, I realized while playing D&D more and then while studying D&D and then when I started to when I DM'd with the actual rules, finally, I then realized, no, it's closer to Final Fantasy or XCOM.
Yeah.
And again, the Final Fantasy that I'm doing with you, Chris, where each one of you is proficient at a particular task or more proficient against particular enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way D&D really is that you're making the fellowship.
Yeah.
So like Legolas is good with the bow, so he hangs back, while Gandalf is good with the magic, so he slightly hangs back and he provides the spells. Boromir and Aragorn and Gimli get right in there because they're the tank-like characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the way D&D is that you don't build your own character because you're not in the venture on your own, or usually you're not.
Yeah.
Is that you are part of a team and you all have to fulfill particular roles within that. And that's
why in that sense, it doesn't really work to play it on your own.
Well, I was going to ask that. How can you play it on your own? Because it sounds
but it's just
challenging.
Yeah, and as well, I mean, the whole fun of it is the camaraderie of the party. And I would think as well, if you don't get on with your party outside of Dungeons and Dragons, don't play Dungeons and Dragons with them. It's not a good idea. Like, you'd want to have a sense of fellowship, right? And be able to have fun, and like there's an element of just having a bit of crack with it, but as well then there's that other extra attachment of if something in the story serious happens to one of the characters, it's not just that, oh, that character might die, so what? It also means that maybe that friend won't be playing in your party anymore. Now it's like, oh, fuck, we got to do everything we can to save him, or he won't play with us anymore because his character's going to die. Yeah. You know, which can happen.
Can happen.
The reason I asked Eric to kind of give me a little introduction game into it, though, is because I backed on Kickstarter the One Ring RPG.
Yeah, right.
And I found it... people are really praising it. It's supposed to be a really, really great game. I haven't gotten into it enough to really judge that, but I'm finding it challenging to understand how it runs, right? So I just kind of wanted to... I don't think it's very approachable for someone who's never played a role-playing game before. Right. And so that's why I wanted Eric just to give me a quick session just to get a sense of, like, what's the language, what's the, you know, the turn sequences, how does it actually play? Because it is very vague. Yeah. There isn't really rules. There's guidelines And that's I just couldn't understand. And I was saying that to Eric, because I was telling them all the kind of the rules to it, and he's like, it sounds like you know this game, and I was like, I really don't. I don't get the DM is called the lore master in that game, and I was like, I just don't get the lore master side of it. And he's like, well, you just make it up. I was like, well, if you make it up, then what's the point in the big book? What's the point in that? I was like, I just don't get it. And he's like, that's the bit I don't get. I don't get that you don't get that.
Okay. And that's interesting. And I suppose that's the same thing for like a DM. DM is easier to say than dungeon master. That suddenly makes it, I don't know.
Lame.
I think generally it's called a GM, isn't it? Because it's like that's a
game master nowadays.
GM is the universal term across all the games.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that like because I'm used to the Middle Earth strategy game, right, and Warhammer, right?
Yeah, of course.
Those are very specific rules, and
those are more like chess.
Well, actually, it's the strategy games like Total War, right? It's the Total War, it's the Age of Empires, it's Dawn of War. And it's very much you're just going to kill the enemy. That's your goal, or take objectives.
Yeah.
Whereas I suppose in role playing, it's not that. And I just need to kind of get into that space. It's not really about combat, really.
Not to, and I'm not trying to be funny. It is Skyrim, right? You make your character within that class. There are confines as to what you can do. Like some classes are more proficient in other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I suppose the GM is the video game. Right?
Yeah. That just sounds like a lot of
it's
pressure.
Offering you. Yeah, no, it is. To be the GM is a lot of pressure, and it's offering you, the player, options, and it can't stop you from doing certain things, but it can frame the story in such a way and put up the invisible walls of like. So, for example, like there's an element of facilitation to it, I think, where it's like, okay, I am intending for these guys to have a great experience without a twist being ruined on them. I am intending for them to end up in this creepy cathedral at the end of this session. However, I cannot tell them that that's where they have to go. They have to have the element of choice, right? So much like when someone's scripting a video game, it's like, how am I going to get them there? But for them to feel like it was their choice all along or something like that. And if you find you're running out of time or something, then like the quickest thing to do is like, I don't know, like say they're all in a tavern and they've decided to drink. It's like, okay, you all pass out. Now you wake up in a creepy cathedral, and suddenly now they're like, wait, what? How did we get there? It's like, okay, cool. I can work with that mystery now, right? Yeah. How did you get there? Right. So something like if you're trying to get someone somewhere, you're thinking things like that. But then alternatively, it could be like someone offers them coin to do a job, right? But someone else offers them a way better reward to go check out this creepy cathedral. Now, as a party, they're going to pick the better reward. So now you've given them the choice, but ultimately you've kind of said there's no choice really because like why you can go kill a couple of wolves for a bit of coin, or you could go check out this creepy cathedral, and ultimately you've still gotten them there. But there is that element of you have to think ahead, you have to plan out and plan on your feet. It's like, okay, they didn't do what I wanted them to do, but how can I ultimately twist this and bring them to where I want to bring them for the campaign?
Sad for the GM then.
Why?
Because they never get to play then. Now maybe that's a position they would love, but like I would kind of
every GM would love to at some point be able to hang up their robe, hooded robe, and be able to play. But
yeah, it's just it's kind of a pity that there isn't like almost like an AI element that's out of the control of the players.
Right, and I think there are games out there that are like that.
Well, the Elder Scrolls game that Eric has, right? That's a game that you can play on your own because there's an AI element to it. It's like you roll these dice and it's unpredictable, and then the enemy will work in a certain way. I think maybe there's modifications and stuff to the game.
The only disadvantage to that is that like one of the advantages, I suppose, of having a person be a GM as opposed to an AI or something, is that they can improvise in a limitless way outside of the confines of what's going on to ensure everyone's having a good experience.
Yeah.
You know, say there's a difficult boss, the boss is fucking hammering them. He's already got move sets for that boss and he's using them. That's where they play, actually. The GM does play as the enemies.
Yes, yeah.
And attacks you. And will often not go easy on you and use their best moves if they can. However, if everyone's about to die and it's like, oh, this is not where this quest is supposed to end. So what do I do here that doesn't feel cheap? Okay, I was going to introduce this NPC character who's like the great wizard who's going to actually tell them what's really going on. So, okay, all the heroes are dying. So as far as they know, maybe I intended this to be a fight. They're not going to win. And I have this hero character swoop in who saves them. And now it's like a thing of, okay, I don't necessarily have to have that the monster's dead, but you guys now need to up yourselves and come back to finish this fight. You know what I mean? You can whereas the AI might just kill all the party and the game is over.
Yeah, but that's more like a game then, isn't it?
Yeah, but then what is it? So do you like, are you going by, let's do a save point where I can do that fight again? Or do you go by, it's like, no, my party is dead, done, make new characters, start the quest all over again?
Yeah, well, I suppose either of those two.
So but you can play that way. That's fine.
You can, but most people most of the time it is supposed to be that, because you spend so much time creating a character. You know, you don't do the save point thing. It is that you're supposed to get connected to these characters. So if they die, they do die.
So either way, you're not going to lose.
You can. You can lose.
You can. A lot of the time, though, if a player is going to die, if their character is going to die, they have requested off the GM, can you kill my character off? And then the GM
secretly.
Secretly, and then the GM, the GM will make it.
Funny you say that. We had like, there was one campaign we were doing where like we were like exploring this temple or something, and then we got separated, and there was this like weird thing glowing, and I was like, okay, I decide to touch it, and he was like, are you sure you want to touch it? I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll touch it. He was like, okay, and he'd take out a piece of paper and write something down. And hand it to me and goes, no one else is to see what's on that. And I was like, what the fuck? And everyone's like, what the fuck? What'd you see? It's like, nothing, I didn't see anything. But that would be then a secret that then later on I might be making decisions, like they might be going, let's go this way, and I was like, no, let's not, let's go that way. They're like, why? And I'm like, you just have to you just have to trust me. But he would do that to the others as well, in scenarios where it's like, so I only want a secret that character to objective. Know. Yeah. So that was another fun way of like, and sometimes you might be making the decision where everyone else is like, I really don't see where you're coming from. I was like, just trust me. You know? And so like that element can be fun.
Yeah. I just think what I would love like from this game, and I might get, because I was just, when I was chatting to Eric, I was saying that because of someone that I've never played a game like that before, it's almost like it's a lot to consider to be a GM if you've never done it before. Perhaps you need, I don't know, inspiration in terms of what's the language, how do you set the scenes and things like that. That there should be preset adventures that you just follow, right
to get used to doing it. Yeah.
And that perhaps there's only a couple of options anyway available, but at least it just gets you into the flow of the game. But I did get an email and I got a PDF for it's a full yoke full of adventures. So I think it was just the day after I mentioned that to Eric. So that book is being printed and it's going to be sent out then soon.
Unreal. Wow. Cool. Yeah. It's like the universe read your mind. It's like, oh, you need this? Yeah. Huh? Here you go. There you go. That's nuts. Do you remember they did they tried to do like a choose your own adventure thing on Netflix? With what was that called again? Bandersnatch? That was called?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
But it was pointless. It was like kind of well made, kind of well acted, but with no conclusion. Just here's various ways this scene can play out, but no conclusion.
Oh.
And I was like, that doesn't really speak to. And there was lots of people like blown away, but like, wow, that's amazing. I was like, no, man, that's not. Like, you should check out like the amount of games that do that, but have a conclusion, and it seems like that's the only way it could have played out. And then you go replay it, and you're like, oh wow, that was totally different.
Yeah.
Still at a conclusion, and
Yeah, I suppose a lot of people just they haven't played or seen a lot of games that use real actors in that sort of situation. Because
Sure.
like PlayStation Plus, I think 1 month had the game Erica. It was again, it was
Yeah.
real actors, and you make choices. and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. That was a fucking.
There's another one. Is
buy it?
What's his name? Adam Brown is in one.
Adam Brown?
Yeah.
Is that the guy from? That's from The Hobbit, right?
From The Hobbit, yeah. He's in
Yeah.
one. But I think it's only on. I don't know if it's only on mobile. I don't think it's on console. But
Okay.
I think it's a choose your own venture, but with video.
Right. Same as that Erica one.
Yeah, must be then.
Because that was weird. Didn't really go anywhere.
I guess you have less control, don't you, when it's a video?
A little bit.
Probably, yeah. It's probably
And
why
it's a glorified like play button. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's the
that is
equivalent
what it
of
is.
like a DVD menu, and you just
Yeah,
press
that's exactly
next
what it
scene.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly.
it's not
how
as
they've-
clever
how
as
they've
people
done
think it
It's-
to be.
No, it's really not. It's not. It's just like you can either play that scene or play that scene to carry on.
I think
yeah.
the only like impressive thing about it, I guess, is that it's hard enough to write one coherent story, but writing multiple paths. But then that's what D&D is like, and remember the games that were the books that we had.
I was just about to bring
Lone-
them up. The
Lone
Choose Your Own
Wolf.
Adventure books.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
which is this again. It's that, but that's a narrative that you follow, and you're going against an AI, I guess, because you're only playing by yourself.
Yeah.
Good opportunity for that kind of stuff, I think, to be introduced.
I was always trying to figure out there was a grid in the back with numbers on it, and like something about like
Oh, I never played
close
it
your
correctly.
eyes and pick, and then that's the weapon you get or something like that. I was always like, what? That can't be it. Then you just there is an element of looking at these things anyway, isn't there? Like you roll.
There was two methods of
D20
it. One was like they had a grid, right,
Mm.
and you could just close your eyes and put your finger on it, and then that's the choice you get, whether it's a stat or a weapon or a piece of armor. That's only there because if you don't have a dice with you on hand, so they just made the
Right.
grid in the back as a secondary option, which is a good idea.
Yes, yeah. One of my biggest gripes with Dungeons and Dragons and those kinds of games is and it depends on your character, right? It totally depends on your character. Context is important. The roll to see if you hit. Sometimes I'm like, what? So I'm like this super badass warrior with like years of experience. There's a guy directly in front of me. I have my sword in both hands, and I'm rolling to see if I happen to hit that guy. Are you kidding me? Like, fair enough. Archer, the target's far away. The target's moving, maybe. It's like, okay, I might miss.
Yeah.
But the
who
guy
says,
is directly in front of me.
Who says you're a legendary warrior? Is that
I
just,
say.
Oh yeah, that's just
No,
you,
but
your
let's
big
say-
ego.
Yeah.
No one else is like, oh
I have
yeah,
a backstory. I'm badass.
according to you.
Yeah.
Well,
You're
that's-
basically what's his face from Harry Potter?
Huh?
Gilderoy Lockhart.
Oh, Gilderoy
you're
Lockhart. Yeah.
That's what you are. But in the face of it, well, you don't quite live up to the legend.
Yeah, maybe you
It
don't.
would seem.
But it is one of those ones where I'm like, can it not just be roll to see how much damage you do? Not roll to see, do you even hit? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Have you ever tried hitting someone? It's fucking hard.
They might dodge.
I never have, but I'm not a badass warrior. That's why I play Dungeons and Dragons, so I can be my better self.
Yeah, well, I mean that kind of makes sense, but also doesn't. Like, I don't really like that either, because that's actually to do with the armor.
Then I don't either.
No,
that's-
none of us like it, right? None of us like it.
That's to do with the armor class system. So every
Yeah.
character and every enemy and everything has an armor class that you have to roll over, equal to or over or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose, like, if you're attacking a guy with a shield and sword, and if you fail to hit, it's that he or she put up their shield and
Right.
blocked your
Yeah.
sword.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of what it actually means. It's not that you just fucking swung like the opposite direction or something. It's that the enemy managed to block or deflect it. But I don't really like it. More based on, again, when it comes to creating your character, as Adam was learning when looking at it, was like, when you choose the different armors, why would you ever go for the lowest armor? It doesn't seem to ever have any benefits.
Why would you? Yeah. That's a good point.
Like,
why would you?
You went for pretty much the best armor you could have.
Mm-hmm.
It was the highest without a disadvantage on stealth. I was like, yes. Why would anyone go for any other piece of armor?
Is there a load problem or anything like that?
Maybe it's how much you can carry, right?
There's a carry capacity rule in D&D, and then there's also like putting armor on or off. So if it's lighter, you can put it on quicker. If it's heavier, it takes you longer to put it on. Right?
There could be like swim disadvantages.
It doesn't say. Usually, it would say stuff like that.
Might have it in a different book in
in 10 years time.
Yeah,
but like that's a thing I don't really like, is that sort of stuff.
That's a cosmetic thing then.
Kind of a cosmetic, but no, it does help because the enemy has to roll higher to hit you. My biggest issue is actually then that someone can start with armor class of 20 on level 1, and I'm like, that's way too high.
Progression, yeah.
Yeah, where's the progression? And you're too high. And then if there is a progression, you're getting better armor that gives you.
There must be a disadvantage.
Well, you have a disadvantage on stealth,
right?
Yeah,
but you're still impossible to hit, or like nearly impossible to hit. So
like walk right into Shadow Moses, baby. You know?
Yeah.
No bother.
You just need to throw a bigger enemy at them, I think.
Our very first ever adventure, to get around any of that stuff, or just to get us playing quicker to see does anyone even like this style of game. He said we were all basically Elder Scrolls style. We're all prisoners. We're all on a ship being transported. You have no weapons. You have no gear. You have nothing. So starting from scratch. And then we landed on this island and we just had to find supplies to survive. And that was kind of... So we could jump straight into the role-playing element, and then later on we could start getting gear, you know?
Yeah.
So that was I would always kind of, if someone wants to just like try it out with their friends, I'd recommend like start with a very small scenario, a limited scenario that gets right into the action. Because
that's what
when you spend days in taverns and shit looking for fetch quests to fight rats, it quickly gets fucking boring, you know? Start with something exciting.
I quite like the little skirmish that Eric had set up for me. 10 out of 10 would play again.
Go on, Eric. On the fucking ball. Maybe we should play it on the podcast.
I believe Polygon said outstanding.
Nice. And IGN gave it a 9 out of 10.
Well, like that is the thing, is that, see, D&D in the Dungeon Master's Guide does tell you start small and start low and build up from there. Right. I remember one time I was playing a campaign, and your man's not bad at DM, but he was following very strictly to the rules, because to him, it's the whole thing is perfect and flawless. There's 5 editions. There's no way they could have done wrong, right?
Right.
We played 12 hours. We only got to level 2, and nothing happened. Well, stuff happened, but it was just like we were still dealing with, like, I think we were just starting to touch on maybe we're getting close to the campaign start. But and we died as well.
It's
on
just
level
tutorial
1. We actually died like on level 1. I was like, okay, that's not good. But then when I was introducing a couple of my friends to it, they were in a tavern, which is actually always recommended as the worst way to start a campaign, is in a tavern, because everyone get drunk. Because everyone get drunk and everything go wrong.
What do you want to do? Get drink.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, so if we start playing the One Ring, guess where we're starting?
A tavern.
Green Dragon.
Well, guys, those are just some of our adventures that we've played so far in the role-playing sphere. But we would love to hear about your own adventures, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, whether it's any other kind of tabletop games we haven't mentioned, whether you play strategy games like the Middle-earth strategy game or Warhammer, whatever you like to play, whatever you like to collect. Let us know about your adventures, your journeys. If you're watching this on YouTube, please jump down to the comments to share your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and click that notification bell. Maybe sometime we'll do Dungeons and Dragons on the podcast. I don't know. Let us know if you would be interested to see how we would play it out or how that would go. And maybe we'd have to get someone on as a guest to be our DM so that none of us are actually taking over and we all have to be player characters. Let us know if you'd like to have your listeners on audio platforms. You can also touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take to give your take on everything we brought up here today. Thank you so much for checking this out, and we'll be back to talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.